All right.
You what?
We're going to start the React segment for this week. We're starting off with Liuss, which is a very, very wonderful down-to-earth homie who we are now parasocial friends with. They do stream on Twitch as well as make excellent YouTube content. So make sure that you hit that link that just showed up in the Twitch chat. If you're on the YouTube in the future, it'll be down in the description below. Today, they are talking about why there's no cross progression in Dead by Daylight, which is something that Behavior has teased in front of our faces for quite some time, but it never truly comes to fruition, and it's kind of just really disappointing.
Skill issue.
It's a skill issue on Behavior's part. So let's see what Liuss has to say about it.
Dead by Daylight update, we're bringing
cross progression. Cross progression. Please give us cross progression.
Please add cross progression.
They do be like it. They do be like that every single time DBD Twitter posts anything. Like the official DBD account. I don't know. I get it, but I also kind of hate it. I hate so badly that like every DBD like Twitter post turns into just a forum for people to just like complain or bitch about something just like nonstop. That's like like unless there's something like immediately like really like desperately needs attention happening, I wish people would just like not do that. But they do. So for this one.
I think people want cross progression in Dead by Daylight. I don't know. Just a hunch. But what is cross progression exactly, and why don't we have it in the game yet? Essentially, what it means is that anything you unlock or buy on one platform will transfer over if you decide to play that game on another platform. You don't have to start over. That also usually comes with crossplay, the ability to play with others on different platforms. All of that is extremely consumer friendly as it prioritizes the player's experience. It lets us have a choice in how we want to play a game. As such, it's become a pretty common thing with a lot of major titles. However, it wasn't always like this. Before 2018, cross progression was not that good. It was almost non-existent. So it was an absolute game changer when the first major instance of this occurred in Fortnite.
It's really loud in my ears.
Less than a year after its launch, it was announced that PC, Xbox, and mobile players could all play together, and not just that, all your stuff on one platform transfers over if you want to play on another. That was absolutely groundbreaking. That hasn't been done on such an immense scale like this before. But there was something missing. Where was the crossplay cross-progression support for PlayStation?
PlayStation, Sony is like the biggest bitch about this shit. Sony is terrible about this stuff. Sony just like does not like playing nice with any other company for any reason. And I hate that about them so much. Sony just doesn't play nice with any other gaming company. They're like, we do everything right, and we don't want to do anything with anything else. Like, if they could just, like, lighten up a little, the gaming world would be so much nicer, but can't really do much about it.
September of the prior year, there was actually some sort of behind-the-scenes technical issue in Fortnite that, for the first time in general ever, allowed Xbox and PlayStation players to play with each other. Everyone loved that. People could finally cross the console line and play with their friends like never before, and it's gone. Like I said, it was a technical error. As fun as it wasn't intentional. But people got a taste of crossplay and wanted more. That includes the CEO of Microsoft Gaming, Phil Spencer. This instance with Fortnite wouldn't be the first time Sony has been difficult to work with. For a long while, they were the reason that Rocket League and Minecraft players couldn't play with their friends that were on other platforms. Sony would even claim that their reluctance here was a matter of security. They were supposedly just concerned.
That's a lie. That is that is just absolutely a lie. That is absolutely a lie. They just want you playing on their system, and they don't want you to be able to crossplay or cross progress with other stuff so you can just do Sony things. That's a load of crap.
Over the safety of their users, and they didn't want to expose them to an environment that was not totally 100% in their control. That's actually really nice, if that were the whole truth.
No, but it's not the truth.
First of all, letting information be shared between consoles isn't the most risky, complicated thing to do. Psyonix, the developers behind Rocket League, said at E3 that Microsoft had the highest and most complex requirements for security. So meeting those barriers made it easier to deal with the requirements of the other platforms. The hard work had been done. So essentially, it was actually Microsoft that had the highest concerns over safety here. If that was genuinely genuinely what Sony was worried about, Microsoft's crossplay requirements would have probably been enough to convince them. As Cyanox also said, all we have to do is check that box and it would be up and running in less than an hour all over the world. But why exactly was Sony so hesitant about being a part of this? The answer isn't as wholesome as them being worried about you. Although they were worried about something, their stock price. Let's use our imagination here and think about
the money trail. There's always... This is a phrase in life you've not heard. I want you to know, and I want you to internalize and keep with you forever. If you're ever confused why a lot of companies and people in general do certain things, follow the money trail. Follow the money trail. See where the money's going and what they're earning and what they want. You'll figure out real quick why people do a lot of things. Follow the money trail.
Just from their point of view, let's get into the mind of a business executive. Alright, in the console wars at the time, PlayStation was the most successful.
Nice and suited up.
That's not a matter of opinion. That's a fact. In the 2010s, Sony sold the most units of consoles and produced tons of memorable, high-quality games. Amongst the competition, they were in the lead and they wanted to keep that spot. And then comes along the notion of crossplay and cross-progression. If you were in charge of Sony and your job relied on how much money you brought into the company, why would you want this? If you openly welcomed it, you'd lose money. Say goodbye to your chunk of base game, DLC, and cosmetic revenue if people could just buy that stuff elsewhere. That would also mean they spend less time on your platform, lowering the amount of time they give your brand. But there's something else that they had to consider here.
Yeah, so like the correct answer to this is like, if you're like, well, they're making kind of sense. There's like, you know, brand loyalty and customer satisfaction will encourage people to stay on your platform and buy more things. That's the correct answer for that, is like customer satisfaction, brand loyalty, and having a good brand reputation. Those three things go a long way too. So it's not actually a good defense.
Here, their own player base hating them. It's hard to profit off of people who are upset with you. I looked up how to tie a tie for this bit, and I think I messed up because it's on way too tight. Fortunately for us, public opinion was so intense and there was enough bad press out there that Sony eventually changed their mind. They would give in to what players wanted and would allow crossplay
PC. Yeah, I had to do some wacky things to play Bloodborne on PC. I had to have like my PS4 on and then had the remote play thing. It was annoying and disgusting. I did it to play with Reaper back in the day. It was frustrating.
Progression for all of these games mentioned, including Fortnite. Although they did start this whole entire process all over again when the Switch port for it was announced. But even when they conceded, their sense of competition creeped in. They wanted some kind of edge. They needed to be ahead of everyone else somehow. That came in the form of a number of exclusive cosmetics that could only be unlocked on their consoles, such as skins and special variations. Their native title characters also spread the brand image by being in these games. While Xbox also tries to do the same, it's not nearly at Sony's level.
Yeah.
Despite their efforts, Sony never wanted to compete like this. They were fine with the way things were before, with it just being about selling more games and more consoles. So it shouldn't be any surprise when I say this, but looking back on it all, they absolutely hated crossplay. As part of the Epic Games versus Apple lawsuit, a lot of confidential information was released. That includes this message from Epic Games to Sony, entailing everything they're willing to do so that Sony agrees to enable crossplay and cross progression. What ended up happening is something that Sony didn't want the public to know. In fact, they filed to try to keep these documents from being released. So to summarize, what this deal ended up being is one where Epic Games covered potential losses that Sony would take from opening up their network. To be specific, that's if the PlayStation Network revenue share, which is made up of every player that has a linked PlayStation account buying something on any platform, is divided by the PS4 gameplay share, which is how much was bought on the console. If the result is greater than 0.85, nothing happens. But if it's less, then Epic Games has to pay up. For example, in month 2 of this slide, PlayStation players spent $1 million across all platforms, but $600,000 of that was spent from the actual PS4 console. As a result of this agreement, Epic Games would pay $52,000 since Sony didn't make enough money that month. They're the only platform that Epic Games has to compensate for crossplay and cross-progression.
That's disgusting.
Such, it's not a stretch to say that Sony probably has other similar deals with other companies. Now that we have a deeper understanding of how much work it takes to get Sony on board, let's talk about Dead by Daylight
that's really
and
greedy.
how cool it
Really
would be
greedy.
if you follow me on Twitch to watch when I play it.
As
I
you
stream
should.
every single Monday and Friday at
They've been
7
playing
p.m.
Resident Evil 4
Central.
lately.
So stop on by if you ever want to hang out with me in the community.
As you should.
Thanks. I'm excited to see you over there. A little bit before this script was written, Dead by Daylight reached 60 million players worldwide 7 years after its release. It's still going strong with a very active and vocal community, a community that's long strived for cross-progression. While it is available for both Steam and the Epic Games Store, general cross-progression is arguably one of the most requested features for this game. Players could spend a lot of time and money on characters on console, but if they want
Can we talk about that for half a second? Or like, I hate that so much. That is like the main reason that, like, honestly, like, there's plenty of good reasons to be PC over console, but that is like probably the main reason that I'm never going back to console ever again. Because how dare you, the Lion the Witch, the audacity of this bitch to have me already pay for my internet bill and then make me pay for access to my own fucking internet on top of it. The audacity of gaming companies to do that, and the fact that it's become commonplace, is ridiculous. We should have rioted, we should have protested the moment they started doing that crap. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. The fact that you essentially have to pay for your internet twice is a scam, and it's been completely normalized. Why do I have to pay for access to something I am already paying for? Absolutely ridiculous. One of the biggest scams in the gaming sphere, and it's just gone under the rug entirely. We're just all fine with it. We're desensitized to it, but it is the biggest gaming scam of all time. Completely stupid. Something worse, you'd be hard pressed to find something worse. That is terrible. Absolutely terrible. Absolutely stupid. Never ever going back to console for that reason. Never ever.
to get a PC and switch over to that, they're gonna have to start all over again. Take for example, friend of the channel, Liuss Gaming. If you can't tell, he
Hi guys, editing Bran here. If you notice here in the background, his little skeleton in the background just like tips over, and I thought somebody was like in the background, like coming towards him, and it kind of freaked me out. So I just wanted to point that out because if you didn't notice, I sure did.
he kind of sort of likes Nancy Wheeler from Stranger Things. You know, just a little bit. However,
one of my favorite things I've ever seen on Liuss videos, there was a comment like, "You're not a girl, unsubscribing." Like, it was the funniest thing. Oh my gosh. Just like, yeah, if you'd actually watch the video, you would know that in like 2 seconds. Like, huh?
much like many others, he couldn't use her on PC for a long time, even though she was his main on console. This is because the Stranger Things chapter was removed in 2021. So if you didn't have these characters or cosmetics on your preferred system, and you weren't willing to spend a paycheck on a DLC key, tough luck. Luckily, the license returned in 2023.
I'm actually very curious, because those keys used to be worth a lot. I'm very curious what they are worth now. Let's see how bad. Wait, they're still expensive? Why? Hold up. Hold up. $126. Why? It's literally back in the game. What? They're literally back in the game. What? Why? Okay, why are you not loading? Load. What? 119? What? Why are they still expensive? Probably hoping somebody think it's not in the game. It's a dumb tax. What the heck? $81 still? They just leave them there fishing for idiots. That is predatory and scary. That's a scam.
Skill issue.
You're a skill issue. Shut up. Not everything is a skill issue. You know what? Your fucking birth was a skill issue. For the rest of us as humanity, because we got to deal with your bitch ass saying skill issue every 2 damn minutes. Fuck. Is that what you wanted? Is that what you want to hear? Skill issue. Skill issue that. Skill issue D's nuts. Asshat.
But the issue of players not being able to use their progress characters across platform lines still remains. Lee can't use his Prestige 100 Feng Min on PC. Many others are in that same boat for characters they've sunk an ungodly amount of hours into. Again, that also includes all the cosmetics they've either unlocked or bought for those characters. There was a point in time where a solution seemed inevitable. Dead by Daylight was supposed to get cross progression. It was so close to happening that the official Twitter account even said that it was coming soon. TM. This was back in 2020, and the link page now leads to a 403 error, meaning that access to it has been blocked off, and not even Wayback Machine can properly go back to see the page.
1920.
So what happened? This next part is entirely speculative, as we don't really have any solid details. But the most likely scenario is that the game developers, Behavior Interactive, had some sort of deal in place with the console companies. However, that deal could have been pulled because someone, either Sony or another
someone, we have no idea who it probably is, but someone probably pulled out of the deal. Gee, which of the three of these has been very cranky when it comes to this? I'll have to put on my detective hat.
Got cold feet. This is really interesting here because unlike Fortnite, who had cross progression between Xbox and PC prior to Sony joining, neither Xbox or Nintendo has allowed this feature in Dead by Daylight. So it stands to reason that if there was a deal, then it would have been a joint one, where everybody had to be on the same page, where everybody had to agree to the terms so that everyone could benefit equally. There was a little bit of copium out there in mid-2023 when PlayStation was added as an option to link a behavior account with it. But that wasn't for DBD specifically, and nothing really came out of that. As for Behavior's response, whenever this question would be asked, they always say the exact same things. They would love to add cross progression, but it's unfortunately out of their control.
And it's really not. Like, if you're one of those people that gives Behavior a lot of crap for this, like, it's really not up to them. Like, as you see with the Fortnite thing, this is just a wider gaming thing in general, and not like Behavior's like incompetence. Like, I know a lot of things do kind of boil down to that in a lot of ways, but this is definitely not one of them. So it's not on them.
DBD is a relatively big game, but not as big as Fortnite or a Hoyoverse title. If Epic Games, one of the world's biggest gaming companies, had trouble getting Sony's cooperations, I don't even want to imagine what Behavior has had to go through with negotiations. They certainly won't be able to hash out the same type of deal that Epic Games did, where they pay an immense amount for Sony's revenue losses. However, all hope is not lost. It's not impossible. At the time when I started working on this video, Warframe and Apex Legends have added cross progression years after their release. Coincidentally, while I was writing this script, there was a DBD satisfaction survey, and in that survey there's a question about cross progression. It asks, how interested would you be if the only way to make it available is if characters were only shared across platforms when purchased in-game, but not as DLC? Basically, that means anything that's bought in the actual store with the in-game currencies, like cosmetics and characters, would be able to transfer over. However, DLC packages bought from platform stores, like the PlayStation Store and Steam, would have to be rebought. That's how most people buy licensed chapters.
That's what I'm saying. That's how most people buy these.
What the fuck? Did also recently change how DLC packages were sold, grouping characters together and overall making them cheaper as a whole. To me, these two things happening around the same time are a very good indicator of what's to come. I can't say how long it'll take or how it'll look like. And although this isn't an issue that affects me personally, I know a lot of players would kill for this type of feature. In spite of how long it's taken, I hope we get cross progression soon in some form. And I can't wait until this comment section is filled with people saying, "We won."
Yeah, I hope so. It really does boil down to Sony, and I think it's funny because, like, at the end of the day, like, yeah, I was looking and I was just very chuckling to myself internally because I was looking above my head. I was looking above my head at all the fuck Sony all the way down the chat. That's gotta be not good. Like, your brand reputation is so poor. Like, that's not good. How are you as a, like, an exec, like, cool with that? Like, how are you cool with, like, our brand reputation is in the toilet? Like, how are you just fine with that? Like, I don't understand that. Like, there's got to have some sort of financial impact that they're not cool with, right? It's got to show up in the numbers somewhere that like people just really hate your guts, like really hate your guts. And like a lot of gaming companies do this. It's not just Sony, but like, I don't know. It's just very interesting to me when companies just prioritize it's like short-term success over long-term sustainability. It's very short-sighted, very, very short-sighted. Because you should be focusing on building a model that doesn't give more upfront profit, but profit over time. That way you have something sustainable, so you're not like laying off people, you're still in the green. Oh, that's kind of like a relative term because most companies run in the red until holiday season. But like you are getting more profit on average, more sustainable profit instead of just upfront money and then it crashes later. And the way you do that is through like having a good brand reputation, having a loyal base of customers, stuff like that. And it's the stuff that I taught, right? When I taught economics. And it's just funny that like at the high school level, we teach the importance of this in the business world, but like these bigwig business execs just like fuck this shit up all the time, and they wonder why their companies get in such bad spots. And it's like the greed just completely blinds them, and they don't realize that these short-term decisions are going to hurt them in the long term, and they're going to have to scramble and figure something out. If they just made those better, more not the most you know, glowy, like super pretty decision up front, and made okay, well, we'll sacrifice a little bit so we have some longevity, their company would be doing fine overall, more like in the long run. Like it's just silly, it's just dumb. But I don't know, that's bigger than me. Sony does not own Disney. I do not think that's a thing, Nord. Yeah, Sony does not own Disney. I don't know where you heard that, but yeah, that if anything, Disney is like probably one of the biggest media powerhouses like of our generation. Has been for a very long time. So they're the ones that own other things. Buy Marvel? Disney bought Marvel. Disney bought Marvel. Sony didn't buy Marvel. Sony owns the rights to certain characters that they had pre-established ownership of before Disney started taking over, like Spider-Man and stuff, and they have to make agreements with Sony to use those characters. But that's just a relic of when Sony was the main company wanting to invest in the superhero genre before Disney got interested. Yeah, so TLDR, even Sony is not smart with this. Sony is dumb and very short-sighted, and it is, I'm sure it's reflecting in their numbers, and if it doesn't, it will soon. Because just based on things that I based on even just the fundamentals of economics that I teach to literal high schoolers, or I had, yeah, these are very short-sighted decisions that are all about cash up front and no longevity to the company's health. So the company's health will start to suffer at a certain point if it's not already. So yeah, I would not worry, because this is not sustainable and it will mess them up.